I'm Imran Farooq. I'm 38 years old. I'm based in Coventry. Known for a few things. I think right now we're in the Hijama Clinic, so I'm known as Coventry Hijama Clinic. But I also am known in Coventry for MMA unit. We have a gym that we run. And I'm also known as a sales consultant because I work online as a sales consultant and I work with Mesmerize. We have a color contact lens company. There's a few other things that we do, but we'll leave it there for now. So yeah, the most important, I almost forgot, the reason why we're here today, because of Cage of Violence. So we ran an MMA show called Cage of Violence. Okay, we'll start from the beginning. Because we run a gym, we've been running it for around 15 years, me, my uncle, my cousin. It's like a family run gym. It's a community gym. A lot of young kids, getting kids off the streets, trying to encourage people to focus on health, fitness, guidance. We try and encourage positive behaviors, positive attributes. It's not always just about fighting. And because we've been involved in this work for a long time, we've also been, by running our MMA gym, we've also had a lot of time where we've networked with so many shows across the UK. Because as you've got up and coming fighters, as they want to kind of like build their names, the progress or the pathway for people to become a fighter would be, first you train in the gym, then when you got a bit of experience and you want to taste what it feels like to have a fight, the next natural step would be to have an interclub. So that's usually like a higher level than a spar, but less than a complete fight. There's usually no winners or losers. So we'd have an interclub. Level after that would be an amateur show. So again, there's hundreds of amateur shows all across the UK. And then after that, you're looking at a professional show. And the way mixed martial arts works is usually you'll have a mix of amateur fights and professional fights on the same card, because you can't always build out a full card of just amateurs or just professionals. And that's kind of where Cage of Violence was grown. Because we've ran a few interclubs in the past, we've always taken our fighters to different shows, different events. And then it was my cousin Sufyan actually, about 6 months ago, around December time, he rang me and said, look, Imran, why don't we run our own show? We're always going to other people's shows, it can't be that difficult to kind of put together. But I mean, that's what we thought at the time. But 5 months later, I would say there's been a lot of ups and downs. There were a lot of challenges. It was a little bit more difficult than we initially anticipated, but it came together really well. The show was an amazing success. We had our first show May 24th at Sports Connection in Coventry. It was a sold out show. I think we had more than 700 people attend. The fights were amazing. The footage was phenomenal. And it's just spiraled kind of out of control. There's a lot of things, a lot of opportunities that have come from that. And now we've got our second show, which is going to be, you guys are hearing it first because we haven't officially announced, but September the 20th, that's going to be our second show. So September the 20th is going to be our next show. What does hijama mean for me? Where did my journey with hijama begin? My journey with hijama began actually when I was, I'd say 18 years old. So when I was 18, I had a bit of a knee issue. I think I had a slight tear in my meniscus. I went to the hospital, I had a scan, and they advised me that I was going to need to have keyhole surgery. Being an 18-year-old kid, I didn't want to have surgery on my knee, and everybody told, you hear all of these scary stories, your knee's never going to be the same again. So what I did was, I kind of put off having the surgery, but my knee just kept getting worse. I couldn't play football anymore, I couldn't even hardly walk up the stairs. That's how bad my knee was, the strength just wasn't there. Somebody mentioned I should try hijama. So I booked a session with someone, and the way it used to work back then was there wasn't really a place you could go. You used to have to call someone who'd come to your house. So I had someone, he came to my house. Okay, let me skip it. I skipped a little bit. The first time I had my hijama session, the day before my appointment, I flapped it. I was scared because I thought it was going to be too painful, and I cancelled my appointment, right? But then 3 months later, my knee was still getting worse. I thought, let me bite the bullet. Let me give the guy a call. I called him, booked the appointment, because my mentality was, there's going to be blood, there's going to be pain, there's going to be some type of issue. Like, surely there's going to be some pain involved, even though everybody told me it doesn't hurt. So that was why I was a little bit apprehensive. Finally, I bit the bullet, had the guy come down, and instantly it was so easy. I did the session, it didn't hardly hurt at all. And the same day I could go up and down the stairs. My knee felt like amazing. So that for me is where my hijama journey began, because I was a patient and I had an amazing experience. In fact, also to then skip forward, I went back to the hospital for another scan and my knee was healed. So alhamdulillah, from Allah, hijama is one of the best cures. And Allah helped heal my knee through hijama. And so for that's something that I always kept with me. Now, fast forward many years later, being part of the gym, having loads of guys that are coming down, a lot of fighters with injuries, I knew hijama was beneficial. So I used to recommend them to try to get hijama done. Unfortunately, the guy who did my hijama many years ago, he wasn't available anymore. And there was a few different brothers locally that were doing hijama. And now, before I say this, it's gonna sound bad. Now there's plenty of good brothers that are doing hijama. So I'll be very clear, there's lots of good brothers in Coventry that are doing hijama. I'll name some of them later. But at this time, the people that I used to send some of these guys to do hijama, they weren't doing a proper job, unfortunately, in my opinion. And so guys were going down, they were getting treatment, but they weren't getting the same feeling I had, or they weren't getting the same results that I had many years ago. So that got me thinking, it can't be that difficult to do. Like, surely it's something I can do it myself. Let's look into this. What do I need to do to become accredited? What do I need to do? Because I've always been, it all stemmed from my granddad, but our family has always been big on helping people in the community. We always like to serve people. So I've looked into hijama, I did the course, I went and got accredited, I got insured, I did everything myself, and then I started to do hijama for people. And it was never supposed to be a business. It was always just to help people. So when I first began, I never used to charge anyone. I used to just do hijama, I used to help them out. But slowly, bit by bit, it kind of grew, alhamdulillah, because of word of mouth. It just started to grow rapidly. Then a few of my friends said, why don't you start an Instagram page? I started the Instagram page, and then we haven't looked back since. Because alhamdulillah, Instagram page blew up, and it got to a point where I was booked. I think there was a period of time where I was booked 6 to 8 weeks in advance. Now that's not because, I was so busy and I was doing 10 bookings a day. It's because of the time that I had allocated to do the hijama, let's say 4 hours a day, those appointments all got taken. So people were having to wait 6, 8 weeks before they could get a session with me. That I used to find challenging because, I'm a people's person and I want to help people, and people usually ring you when there's an issue. So if someone's got an issue and then you're telling them you've got to wait 8 weeks, it's not really a good look. But subhanAllah, everything happens for a reason. I accommodated as many people as I could, and the reputation and the brand grew from there. And then, I used to do a little bit in the gym. I used to go to people's houses. Then alhamdulillah, I was very fortunate that I had space at my house. I converted one of my rooms to a full-time clinic. We outgrew that, and then that brought us here where we are today, Coventry Hijama Clinic, Stony Stanton Road, heart of Coventry, right in between Cambridge Street Masjid, Eagle Street Masjid. It's like prime location for our community. But of course, everyone's inclusive. Hijama's for everybody. But that's how we got here today, And does that answer your question? I think I rambled on a bit.